Welcome back to English Chunks Practice. I'm Jake.
And I'm Sarah. And today's word is one of those small, quiet words that you hear everywhere, but probably never stop to really think about.
It's only 3 letters, but trust me, it does a lot of work. Sarah, what's the word?
Odd. Just odd.
Doesn't it feel a little odd to say it on its own like that?
It does. It sounds strange just sitting there alone, which is honestly very fitting for this word.
Very fitting. Okay, let's get into it.
So, the core meaning of odd is something that is strange, unusual, or slightly off. Not wrong, not bad, just not quite normal. It doesn't fit the expected pattern.
And that's the key thing about odd. It's not a strong word like terrible or shocking. It's more subtle. It's that quiet feeling of, something here is not quite right. I can't fully explain it, but something is off.
Exactly. It's the word you use when something gives you pause, when your brain does a tiny double take, like when you walk into a room and the energy just feels slightly different.
Or when you open your sock drawer on a Monday morning and realize you have about 17 socks and not a single matching pair in sight.
We are getting to that. But first, the chunks.
Okay, chunk number 1, an odd feeling or look odd. This is probably the most common way you'll use this word in everyday life. It describes something that feels or looks strange, unusual, or slightly uncomfortable, even if you can't quite put your finger on why.
And this one is so useful because sometimes life just gives you those moments. You walk into a place, you meet someone, you read a message, and something about it just gives you an odd feeling. Like you can't explain it logically, but your gut is telling you something is off.
Great real-world example. Imagine you go to your usual coffee shop. You walk in, and the whole place is completely empty. No music, no other customers, just you and the barista staring at each other. It gave you an odd feeling, right? Not scary, not dangerous, just odd.
It's that subtle strangeness. That's the word for it.
Chunk number 2, odd jobs. Now this one is completely different from the feeling meaning. Odd jobs means small, random, and varied tasks, usually things like cleaning, fixing, painting, moving stuff, things you do around a house. They're called odd because they don't belong to one specific job or category. They're just scattered little tasks.
And this one is so real for so many people. A lot of people do odd jobs on the side when they're building something bigger. Maybe you're starting a business, studying for a degree, working on a project, and in the meantime, you're doing odd jobs for neighbors to pay the bills. There's absolutely no shame in that. Some of the most successful people spent years doing odd jobs first.
Completely. The hustle is the hustle. Chunk 3, and this one is my personal favorite, the odd one out. This describes a person or thing that is noticeably different from everything else in the group. Not in a bad way, necessarily, just visibly different.
Oh, I have lived this one. Imagine everyone at a formal business meeting is wearing a black suit. Everyone. And you walk in wearing a bright blue shirt because you didn't get the memo. You are immediately, obviously, and undeniably the odd one out.
And the funny thing is, sometimes being the odd one out is actually a good thing. Sometimes you stand out because you're thinking differently, dressing differently, approaching things differently. The odd one out isn't always the loser. Sometimes they're the most interesting person in the room.
Absolutely. Chunk 4 is against all odds. Now, this one is a full idiom, and it's a beautiful one. Against all odds means you succeeded even though it seemed completely impossible. Everything was working against you. The circumstances, the resources, the timing, the people, and yet, somehow, you still pulled it off.
This one carries real weight. You don't use against all odds for small wins. You use it when the challenge was genuinely enormous. She built the app alone in 2 weeks. He got into the university with no connections and no money. They launched the business during the worst possible time, and it worked, against all odds.
It's one of those phrases that makes a story feel cinematic, like you're the hero of your own movie.
And the fifth and final chunk is an odd sock or an odd shoe. This one is wonderfully specific. It means one piece of a pair that has lost its partner. It's separated, mismatched, alone. An odd sock is just a single sock with no matching companion.
And this is the most relatable thing on the planet. I have a whole drawer dedicated to odd socks. Single socks just living in there waiting for a partner that is never coming. It's genuinely one of life's greatest unsolved mysteries. Where do they go?
They just vanish. Somewhere between the washing machine and the drawer, one sock just decides it's done, it's out, it's gone.
It gave me an odd feeling just thinking about it.
See what she did there? Used chunk 1 to talk about chunk 5. That's skills. Okay, real life time. Sarah, I want to hear a genuine odd moment from your life.
Okay, so this actually happened to me last year. I was on a video call with my entire team, like 15 people. And halfway through, I realized my camera was on and I was sitting there wearing one normal work blazer on top and pajama pants on the bottom. Which, fine, that's normal. But then I stood up to grab something without thinking. Full view, pajama pants with little cartoon clouds on them, in front of my entire team.
No.
Yes, and nobody said anything for about 3 full seconds, which is somehow worse. It was the most odd, uncomfortable silence of my professional life.
That is genuinely odd. Okay, mine, I once did odd jobs for a neighbor when I was in university. He asked me to come help him sort out his garage. Normal enough. I get there, and this man has kept every single receipt he has ever received since 1987, organized by month in labeled folders. Over 30 years of receipts for things like one light bulb and packet of chewing gum. I spent 4 hours sorting through receipts for chewing gum from 1994.
That is odd behavior at a clinical level.
But he paid me well, so honestly, against all odds, it was a good afternoon.
And the odd one out in that story is clearly you, a normal human surrounded by decades of organized chewing gum receipts.
Exactly. I was very much the odd one out in that garage.
Okay, one more. This actually connects to against all odds. A friend of mine wanted to open a small bookshop. Everyone told her it was impossible. The market is dead, nobody buys physical books anymore, rent is too expensive. She did it anyway, in a tiny space with almost no budget. Against all odds, she now has a 2-year waiting list for her book club. A waiting list for a bookshop that wasn't supposed to survive.
That is the power of ignoring the odds. People love telling you something can't be done. That's their odd feeling about your dream, and it has nothing to do with you.
That might be the most motivational thing you've said in 14 episodes.
I have my moments. All right, let's bring it home. Odd, a small word with a big range. At its core, it means something strange, unusual, or not quite fitting the expected pattern. Your 5 chunks, an odd feeling or look odd for that subtle strangeness. Odd jobs for those random, scattered tasks. The odd one out for the person or thing that doesn't fit the group. Against all odds for succeeding when success looked impossible. And an odd sock or odd shoe for that one lonely, partnerless thing.
Today's homework, notice how many times this word comes up around you today, in conversations, in articles, in your own thoughts. I promise once you start listening for it, you'll hear it everywhere.
And if something feels a little strange today, if you stand out in a crowd, if you're doing a random task to keep the dream alive, just know that that's not a bad thing. That's just life being gloriously odd.
Thanks for listening to English Chunks Practice. See you in the next episode.
Stay curious, embrace the odd. Later.